Hi, Leather Rokk here. Welcome to my channel. What's one of the biggest mistakes people make when selecting body piercing jewelry? And why is my belly piercing area red and sore now? Stay tuned for the story. So, everybody who's into body piercings really wants something that not only is convenient and practical for their body, but that looks good. And many of us in the body piercing enthusiast community are on a budget. And when you're on the budget, sometimes quality will fall by the wayside when you're searching for that bargain. And I'm kind of guilty as charged when it comes to things like that. And I have a nice selection of body piercing jewelry that I've accumulated through the years since I have the kind of jewelry that is interchangeable, since I finally learned how to take out my CBR and I'm now able to put in whatever I want. And especially when you have a visible piercing such as a navel piercing and you want to show it off, they have cute little things to change with your outfits. But unfortunately, when you're on a budget, the quality is going to be hard to come by. And one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they're choosing jewelry is in whether you're going to have it to be internally threaded or externally threaded. And there is a big difference. There is a saying in the piercing community, external threads cut the skin, internal threads slide right in. Unfortunately, I do not have any examples of internally threaded jewelry. All of mine is the less expensive variety, which is externally threaded. And if you didn't know already, there is a big, important difference in internally threaded and externally threaded jewelry. Even though I can't show you an internal threaded piece, you can do your own research and you can find examples. I can show you what an externally threaded piece of jewelry looks like if it doesn't blur when I get it close to the camera. This is what many people call a banana bar, but it's actually the proper term for it is a curved barbell, a curved bar. And if I get it close enough to the camera without hitting a key on my keyboard and shutting it off, maybe you could see the rough edge, which are the threads. And the threads are kind of like how you put a lid on a jar, or if you've ever screwed in a light bulb, and I'm sure you have, you know what threads look like. Threads help, when you turn around, help the thing to stay, and eventually, it tightens up. But there is a big problem with externally threaded jewelry, and this goes into the story that I'm about to tell you. 2 weeks ago, for whatever reason, I think it was I was wearing an outfit with, in order to make it tight, because it was an oversized dress, I had to belt it up. I had to apply several belts. And sometimes when you apply a lot of belts over a body piercing, like your navel piercing and everything, it'll make it sore. And sometimes it'll even make balls unscrew. And I've lost belly rings that way. So one night I was getting ready to go to a club, and I decided, you know what, since nobody's going to see it anyway, and since I've had my piercing since 2005, and it's now 2019, I think it's okay to just take the piercing out. So I took my ring out and I went out to the club and didn't think anything of it. Work life happens. And because it's been really, really cold, I haven't had any reason to bare my navel, I wear still a lot of body conscious stuff, obviously, but when it's cold as it's been, I haven't had reason, even on the dance floors, I haven't been wearing bare midriff tops and stuff. So one day turned into 2 weeks, and all of a sudden I looked down at my bare belly and I realized, I haven't had any jewelry in a while. So I went in my container here and I chose a cute little belly ring, I thought, and I went to screw it in, and I noticed something really disturbing. And first of all, you shouldn't be screwing them in. That's the whole point. You're supposed to just shove them in. But when I went to try to put it in, it was like my piercing had started to close up already. And it's like, when you've had a piercing in, 14 years, why the hell could it be starting to close up after 2 weeks? That doesn't make any kind of sense. And I'm thinking, no, tell me this isn't happening. It's like not acceptable. I don't need this. And the first thing I did was I got the strongest bottle of alcohol I could find in the house, and it was 91%. because I did not have any of the antibiotic ointment or anything, and I certainly didn't have the saline solution that you use for healing piercings. And I irrigated my navel. Maybe I should, I don't know if the light's even good enough to show this. I irrigated my navel, and because I want to use the alcohol kind of as lubrication. And I had to literally shove this, supposed to be surgical stainless steel, piercing into my body. And it took quite a bit of effort, but I got it in, and I noticed, in fact, I was able to feel the friction of the ring with the threads in it going into my skin. And then, of course, when I squeezed the alcohol in there, I felt a sting, which proved that, yes, those threads did, in fact, scrape and abrade the skin. And could not help but notice that a couple of days later, you can see it's pink around here, and it does feel sore. And the only thing I really have to put on it, disinfecting wise, is the alcohol, because all the tubes of triple antibiotic ointment we had around this house, I checked in the first aid kit. I checked around, and of course, the more I try to straighten around my room, the bigger messes I make, because I'm always doing show prep. And I have a bunch of clean laundry that I haven't put away, and I haven't put away Christmas stuff. It's just all this stuff I got to deal with, and the stuff of my roommates. And sometimes a roommate will borrow something out of the bathroom, and I'll put it in his room where I can't have access to it, or maybe it will be in the other bathroom. And anyway, so, and I certainly don't want to go to the store and buy replacements for things we already have. I'm really not that flush to be throwing money around like that. So, bottom line, I am hoping that I am not getting an infection, because that would really suck, and I sure don't want this to close up and me have to start all over again. If I had thought to invest in really higher quality jewelry, such as the internally threaded stuff, and that's not the only thing by far that you really should be concerned about as far as the quality of your piercing jewelry. Yes, you want it to be internally threaded. You'll have much less friction when you're dealing with inserting, changing out your jewelry. If you never changed out your jewelry, it really wouldn't matter. But if you're going to have the kind of piece that you're going to want to change to go along with your outfits, yes, it does matter. But in addition to having preferably internally threaded jewelry, you would like it to be as smooth as possible. If you look at your jewelry up close under a magnifying glass, it should not have machining marks like when a sanding tool, or different kind of tools that are used to polish the metal. If it's not completely shiny, if the points of contact where the bar that pierces the jewelry that goes into your body meets with the screw ball, if it is not an absolute perfect match, if there's any sharp edges and there is space in between where the ball is and the piercing is, guess what? Bacteria, dead skin cells can accumulate. If you ever take a look at your threaded jewelry, not brand new stuff, obviously, but the stuff that you've been having for a while, check it out, what's in those threads. If you ever take a wet paper towel, put alcohol in it or put water on it, and if you have even a tiniest little bit of a fingernail, put it up against the paper towel and clean along those threads. And you're going to find something. You're going to find debris. It's commonly called biofilm. And basically what that is your dead skin cells, maybe blood pieces, maybe scab, whatever, maybe lint from your belly button if it's a navel piercing. And if it was a nipple piercing, it could be, again, dead skin cells. Those accumulate in your external threads. And if you have an occasion like what happened to me, where your piercing starts to close up because you didn't have jewelry in for a couple of days, and even if you do put alcohol in it as a lubrication before sticking that externally threaded jewelry in, you are going to break the skin. You're going to introduce all those dead skin cells and all that bacteria from the times when you didn't always have the cleanest of hands. You figured, well, since this is my own jewelry, I don't have to worry about my being totally sanitary, because it's not like I'm using somebody else's jewelry, or it's not like it fell onto the floor. And, I'm sure my hands are clean because I washed them a couple of hours ago. And you're touching this jewelry, and you try your best to touch only the ornamental part of it, but you know a part of your hand is going to touch that bar that just went in your body and got scratched by those threads, and you just contaminated yourself, and you've got broken skin, you've got germs, introduced it to the bar. And if you ever get in the habit of using that antibacterial soap, guess what? That's the worst thing you can do, because the antibacterial soap, what that does is, as soon as it seems to attract bacteria to the spot that was just clean. It's really risky to do unless it's just before surgery or something. It's really not a good habit at all to do that. Plus, the last thing you want to do is encourage resistance of bacteria to antibiotics, so that if you ever got seriously sick and you needed antibiotics and you had something that resisted them and you needed to try stronger and stronger drugs to knock it out of you, and that happens to people more and more. So you really have to have some good sanitary practices when you're dealing with body piercing jewelry. And certainly if it starts to close up on you and you have to shove it in, have that 91% alcohol on you, even though alcohol can make piercing jewelry stick more. That's the main reason why body piercers make you use or encourage you to use a sterile saline solution. But what that does is that doesn't really sterilize things. You've got to be clean to begin with. What that sterile saline solution does is that helps to flood any impurities that accumulate out, and it helps with the healing process. It in and of itself is not going to kill germs that are already there. So I'm going to keep on looking for that tube of antibacterial, or not antibacterial, that tube of antibiotic ointment, because I think I should start putting it on this, and I'm going to monitor this, and I'll let you guys know if anything tragic happens either way, which I don't really think will, but still, just in case. So bottom line here is, if you're in the market for body piercing jewelry, please consider getting it internally threaded. You'll save a lot of headaches because you won't be cutting yourself open every time you change your jewelry. So, hope you learned something here. I'm sure learning things. Never too old to learn. If you like this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. If you like me and my content, I'd love to have you subscribe. I make new content every 3 times a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Not usually about body piercing jewelry. Occasionally it is, about a variety of topics, and hopefully find something you enjoy. Till then, talk to you soon. Bye.